Hey everyone, Justin and Jesse Klein here. Today we are talking about inspections. So in each of our offers, we write an inspection clause. So subject to our buyers getting an inspection done on the property to figure out roughly how much it's going to cost. If it's going to exceed a number that we write into the contract, then they can use this subject clause. Now, inspections are very important, and here are the things that you're going to kind of want to keep in mind as you go to get an inspection for your home and why you want to get an inspection. You're going to want to first off get a qualified professional to do this. Now, they look at the home systems, the structure, they identify all the issues to the best of their knowledge that can be addressed. And this could be anything from a dishwasher not working to a leaking roof or even radiant floor heating not being even. They have the equipment, the technology, and the expertise to look at all these areas in your home. So it's really important to get an actual qualified inspector to do this, especially on detached homes and older homes, because they're looking for a lot of things that you would never even think of. When it comes to finding a qualified inspector, we can help you there. We have great people to refer out to that our clients have really enjoyed using. But also ask your friends and your family who they've used in the past and what their experiences were with them.
We don't actually like referring inspectors because every single inspection, the inspector misses something. And then the client's like, what the heck? You referred them. So what I say now is this inspector has missed the least amount of things for our clients, because every single time they miss things, it's like oftentimes it's a 40-year-old home, and the clients, the inspector's there for 3-4 hours, and they just kind of do as much as they can, but they're obviously human. And the client moves in, and they're like, oh my gosh, I realized that, there's this leak somewhere or something like that, right? The inspector missed it. So yeah, we have people who we found to be quite diligent. They make the least amount of mistakes out of everybody that we've seen, but they're still going to make mistakes. And so I think it's very important to have those expectations set that this is a risk reduction, not a risk elimination. And you will still find problems after you move in. And so, yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest things is the expectation. You have to go into it knowing that there are issues with the home. The owners picked a price to sell based on the issues that they know of. You're trying to uncover and figure out, are there more issues than the sellers are aware of, that we are aware of, but you go into it knowing that there are going to be issues to uncover. This can be, a big hurdle for first-time home buyers, especially. This is their first home. They're very excited about it.
And often they don't have the cash to cover any repairs necessary. Yeah. And so when it comes to negotiations, that's a pretty big deal. So as we now have these issues that we've uncovered, usually during the inspection, the question is, what do we do with them? And it's really, the answer is it comes down to a negotiation. So you have your initial negotiation where you put together your contract, your accepted offer, and then usually there's a second negotiation that happens around the inspection. And whether or not you get money off or whether you get the seller to do the work comes down to two things. One being, what's the market like? And does the seller feel like they have the upper hand, or does the buyer have the upper hand? Does the seller feel like they have buyers waiting in the wings that are willing to just take the home as is? Or do they feel very lucky to have you at the table right now? And then the other thing is just, what's the seller's attitude? And are they reasonable? How desperately do they want to get rid of this property? And those are things that it really just is deal to deal. But in general, let's say you do an inspection and you find out that the hot water tank is 12 years old and you didn't know this before. An insurance company is probably going to require you to replace it before you move in. Okay, that's $1,200. Maybe you find some moisture behind the shower. This is a very common issue. And if you want to just rip out an entire shower, redo the backing, the board behind it with waterproof, and then new tile, and then, oh my goodness, now we're into a $10,000 shower potentially. Are we just going to ask for $10,000 off the price? So we're going to talk about that briefly. And then also, let's say there's a couple minor things, like maybe the door doesn't close to the garage. Maybe one of the taps is leaking. So what we're going to do is we're going to probably send all these items from the report to the seller and say, hey, these are all the issues. Usually what I like to do is say with the buyer, let's show them that we're reasonable. So maybe the buyer's like, my uncle, he's a plumber. So I'm going to have him over. I'm going to buy him a pack of beer and he's going to fix the tap for me. He's going to replace the washer in there and that'll be fine. So tell them that we're going to take care of that. And we're also going to take care of the binding door. I'm pretty handy. I can do that myself, or, I found a handyman on Facebook Marketplace is going to come for $150. So we got that, but we're concerned about a couple of the larger things here. The hot water tank. Maybe you're going to ask for them to replace half of that. You're going to say, you know what? We probably should have noticed that was an older hot water tank. It's not necessarily that it has to be fixed now. It's just that we're uncertain if an insurer is going to give us the insurance. So how about this? We'll pay, how about you guys give us $600 and we'll replace a $1,200 hot water tank. And then when it comes to the shower, this is where things get contentious, because when you have a shower that has moisture behind the walls, it could be moldy back there. Now, is the buyer concerned about mold? Some are, some aren't. Some things is a health issue. Some don't think it is at all. And it could be soft. It could be the whole, there's a waterproof backing behind the tile. Maybe that's completely ruined. Well, how do you go about figuring out if it is ruined? You don't know. The only way to know is to take off the tile. Okay, but now you're redoing the entire shower. So this is one of those things, and we've dealt with this lots of times. This is probably 1 in 4 inspections come back with moisture behind the shower. And we're on both the listing side sometimes and the buy side. We understand both perspectives. From the seller side, it's well, why don't you just dry it out, re-grout it, and go on with your day? It's a $500 fix. The buyer's well, what if there's mold behind it? And then it's the $10,000 fix. You got to rip out the whole shower. So usually what happens with situations like this is, again, it comes down to negotiation. How badly does the seller want to get rid of the property? And how badly does the buyer want the property? So in a really hot market, you could see the buyer just go, whatever, I'm grateful to have won this home. I've already written offers on 3 others. I'm just going to take it as is and figure it out afterwards. In a slow market, the buyer might go, okay, this could be 10 grand. I want 10 grand off the price, or I'm walking to your neighbor next door who just listed. And oh my goodness, they're listed for cheaper than I just paid for this home. So I'm going to get over there if they don't take this money off, right? Then that shows you how the market influences the negotiations. More often than not, you'll meet somewhere in the middle. Maybe the buyer says, okay, you know what? Why don't you just give me $2,500 off, and I'll have, my uncle, the plumber, come in, and we're going to buy a dehumidifier. We're going to dry out the whole thing, regrout it, see if that fixes the issue. Or maybe the seller says, you know what, we'll have it fixed, and but we're not going to pay for the hot water tank, and we're not going to do these other things. So anyways, like I said, a million different ways to negotiate these. But bottom line thing to keep in mind is buyers obviously oftentimes don't have the money to actually fix things when they move in. And that's when they want the seller to get work done rather than money off the price. And that can create a lot of issues.
Yeah. So as you can tell, very complicated issue, something that we're obviously going to help you with. It's very important to have a competent realtor doing this. It's a lot more than just taking the inspection report, sending it to the other realtor and telling them, fix this, please.
Don't do that.
Doesn't go over very well.
You'll kill the deal.
You will lose the home. So don't do that. It's a very complicated issue, but always going case by case and working with our clients on figuring out how to best tackle this. So now the only time that this really differs in a very different case is if you're purchasing brand new. Now the developers, they have an obligation. You're purchasing a new home. It's like purchasing a new car. You want it to be perfect, and it should be perfect. That expectation is realistic. So when you go through, you do an inspection, you see all these things that may still be wrong with the home that the developer might have missed, big or small. You can then send these to the developer. We get to say with the warranty, the 2, 5, 10 warranty and the first year warranty, where they pretty much cover almost everything. You get to send this to them and tell them to fix it and ask them to fix it. And it's their obligation to do so.
And one other thing to think about is an inspection, especially on a detached home, it's a starting point. It's going to highlight issues, but the inspector's not going to be able to tell you if he's going to be able to say, hey, maybe there's moisture in the crawl space, but he's not running a camera on the perimeter drainage to see if it's collapsed or blocked. So oftentimes after an inspection, you have to go and hire additional trades. Maybe you have to hire a roofer to see, does this have to be replaced or can it be patched and then kept for another 5 years? And so these are things where you want to leave yourself enough time, ideally, to and even money budget. Usually trades are going to want $200 or $300 to come out and just take a look at something and inspect it. So you want to leave enough bandwidth there so you can get additional people out, really get the quotes and the information and the expert opinions beyond the inspection that you need. And oftentimes sellers are going to want that too. So if you tell the seller that the perimeter drainage has to be replaced and it's going to be $40,000 because the inspector said there's some moisture in the basement, they're going to be like, yo, kick rocks. But if you're like, hey, inspector said there's moisture in the basement, here's the pictures. We're hiring a company to come out, run a camera. Oh, here's the video. Look, you can see where it's collapsed. And then here's, we go up above. You can see where it dips here too. Here's the evidence. Okay, well, now the seller knows they have to disclose this to the next buyer. They have the evidence. This is like a material latent defect, huge cost to fix. Well, they might as well just give you the money off because they're going to have to give it to the next person too. So you can see where it becomes very important to get granular and get that expert opinion and really do as much due diligence as you can.
Yeah, this is a very big topic. Of course, every case scenario is very different, and that's why we're here to help guide you along the way.